Picture this. A quiet woman walks into a diner, just wanting dinner with a friend. Within minutes, she's surrounded by a violent motorcycle gang hurling racial slurs, threatening to drag her out by force. The entire restaurant watches in silence. No one helps. No one moves. But what this gang doesn't know, what no one in that diner knows, is that the woman they're threatening survived 3 combat tours as an Army Ranger. And when she finally stands up, what happens next will leave you speechless. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss powerful stories like this one. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. Now, let me take you to that Friday night. The bell above Murphy's diner chimed softly as Denise Crawford pushed through the glass door. The smell of coffee and grilled onions hit her immediately, familiar, comforting. It was just past 7 on a Friday evening, and the place was packed. Truckers hunched over plates of meatloaf, families squeezed into booths, and the jukebox in the corner played an old country song barely audible over the chatter. Denise spotted Valerie Chen already seated in a red vinyl booth near the back. She weaved through the crowded tables, her worn work boots barely making a sound on the checkered floor. Everything about Denise seemed ordinary. Faded olive green jacket, simple jeans, hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail. She looked like someone who worked long shifts and kept to herself, which, to everyone in town, she did. "Hey, Val," Denise said, sliding into the booth across from her friend. Valerie's smile was tight, nervous. Her eyes darted toward the front of the diner, then back. "Denise, maybe we should go somewhere else." "Why? We always come here on Fridays." "I know, but—" Valerie lowered her voice to a whisper. "They're here tonight." Denise followed her gaze. Near the entrance, sprawled across 3 tables pushed together, sat a group of men in black leather vests. Patches covered their backs, skulls, flames, the words Iron Skulls MC stitched in bold letters. Beer bottles cluttered their tables. Loud voices. Louder laughter. The kind of energy that made other customers keep their heads down. Denise had seen groups like this before. Different countries, different uniforms, same energy. "We're fine," she said calmly, picking up the menu. Valerie bit her lip. "Denise, they've been causing trouble all week. Last Tuesday, they made the Hendersons leave. Just, please. Let's just go." But Denise was already studying the menu, her face unreadable. That's when the voice cut through the diner noise like a blade. "Yo, you." Denise didn't look up. "I'm talking to you, lady." Slowly, Denise raised her eyes. Standing beside their booth was a mountain of a man. 6'3", maybe 240, arms covered in dark tattoos that crawled up to his neck. His leather vest hung open over a stained white shirt, and his beard was thick and unkempt. Cold blue eyes stared down at her with something between amusement and contempt. This was Garrett Razor Kingston, local legend, leader of the Iron Skulls. Everyone in town knew his name, and most people crossed the street when they saw him coming. "This booth's taken," Garrett said flatly. Denise glanced around. "I don't see a reserved sign." A slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. "You don't see a sign?" He leaned down, hands pressing on the table, bringing his face inches from hers. "Let me make it real clear for you, sweetheart. This is our spot. And you don't belong here." The diner went quiet. Conversations died mid-sentence. Forks stopped halfway to mouths. People turned to watch, but no one moved. No one spoke. Valerie's face went pale. "Denise, please." Garrett's grin widened. Behind him, the rest of the Iron Skulls had risen from their tables. 10 men, maybe more. They formed a loose semicircle around the booth, boots scraping against tile, leather creaking. One of them, a wiry guy with a scar running down his cheek, cracked his knuckles. "Did you hear him?" the scarred one sneered. "Or are you too stupid to understand English?" Denise reached for her water glass. Lifted it. Took a slow, deliberate sip. Garrett's jaw tightened. "You think this is funny?" She set the glass down carefully. "I think I came here to eat dinner with my friend. And you're in my light." The gang erupted in harsh laughter. "Listen to her," one shouted. "She's got an attitude problem," another growled. Garrett slammed his palm on the table. The glasses jumped. Valerie flinched. "Let me explain something to you," he hissed, his voice dropping to something quiet and venomous. "This town, this diner, it don't serve your kind. So you got two choices. Stand up and walk out, or get dragged out. What's it gonna be? Denise looked at him. Really looked at him. Her dark eyes were steady, unblinking. There was something in that gaze, something Garrett couldn't quite place. Not fear. Not even anger. Just stillness. You're making a mistake, she said softly. The gang howled. Mistake? Garrett threw his head back, laughing. Lady, the only mistake here is you thinking you got a say in this. One of the bikers, a stocky guy they called Diesel, slid into the booth beside Valerie, pressing her against the wall. She let out a small gasp. Your friend's smart enough to be scared, Diesel whispered. Maybe you should listen to her. Tears welled in Valerie's eyes. Denise, please. Let's just go. Please. Around the diner, people watched. A waitress stood frozen by the coffee station, phone clutched in her shaking hand. A trucker at the counter gripped his mug, so hard his knuckles went white. But nobody moved. Nobody said a word. The neon sign above buzzed. Someone's fork clattered to the floor. Garrett leaned in closer, his breath hot against Denise's face. Last chance, sweetheart. You walk or you crawl. Your choice. Denise's hands rested flat on the table. Her breathing was even. Calm. She folded her napkin slowly, precisely, and set it beside her plate. Then she looked up at Garrett one more time. I told you, she said quietly. You're making a mistake. Garrett's face twisted into a snarl. The only mistake. He reached down and grabbed her arm. And that's when Denise Crawford finally stood up. Her chair screeched backward across the tile. She rose to her full height, 5'9", and the air in the diner seemed to shift. The lights felt dimmer. The noise felt distant. Garrett's smirk faltered. Denise's voice was soft, but it carried. Last warning. Let go. He squeezed tighter. Or what? The diner held its breath. And then, Denise moved. Garrett's hand clamped down on Denise's arm like a vice. His other hand balled into a fist, pulling back, ready to strike. The iron skulls pressed closer, leather and sweat and the stink of stale beer. Boots squeaked on tile. Someone muttered, teach her a lesson. Denise moved like water. One sharp twist, Garrett's grip broke. She rotated his wrist backward in a fluid motion, controlled but devastating. There was a wet pop as tendons strained. Garrett's eyes went wide. His knees buckled. What the? Before he could finish, Denise stepped to the side, guiding his momentum downward. Garrett's chest slammed into the edge of the booth table. A ketchup bottle toppled. Glass shattered against the floor. The diner gasped as one. Army Ranger close combat, Denise said quietly, her voice steady as stone. Lesson 1. Never put your hands on someone without consent. Diesel lunged from the booth, swinging a heavy fist toward her head. Denise didn't even turn. She ducked low, hooked his arm mid-swing, and used his own weight against him. He flew across the table, scattering plates and silverware. Valerie scrambled free, pressing herself against the wall, hands over her mouth. Another biker charged, a big guy with a shaved head and a chain hanging from his belt. Denise sidestepped like a dancer. One precise kick to his shin dropped him to one knee. She locked his head under her arm and guided him, firmly but carefully, onto the tile floor. The iron skulls froze. Their leader was doubled over, gasping. 3 of their brothers were on the ground. And this woman, this quiet woman, stood in the center of it all, breathing evenly, not a hair out of place. The neon lights buzzed overhead. Someone's phone was recording. A teenage busboy whispered, "Holy hell." Denise rolled her shoulders once. I didn't come here to fight, she said, her voice carrying across the silent diner. Walk away now. All of you. Garrett staggered to his feet, face purple with rage. Pride burned hotter than pain. You think you're tough? He reached for his belt, fingers closing around the handle of a folding knife. You're dead. The blade flicked open with a metallic snick. That was the line. Denise moved so fast it seemed like one continuous motion. She seized his wrist, twisted the knife free, sent it clattering harmlessly onto the counter, and shoved Garrett backward into an empty booth. He landed hard, the wind knocked from his lungs. The diner was dead silent. Denise reached slowly into her back pocket. Every eye in the room followed her hand. She pulled out a worn leather wallet, flipped it open, and held it up. Inside, under the plastic window, gleamed a military ID card. Army green. Official seal. And beneath it, a second card, a commendation medal, laminated and unmistakable. The fluorescent lights reflected off the insignia. "My name," Denise said, her voice cutting through the silence like a bell, "is Captain Denise Crawford. United States Army Rangers. Retired." The words landed like a bomb. 12 years active duty. 3 combat tours, 2 in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. Recipient of the Bronze Star, 2 Army Commendation Medals, and the Combat Action Badge. She paused, letting it sink in. "And you just attempted to assault a decorated combat veteran." Garrett's face drained of all color. Diesel swallowed hard, still sprawled on the floor. The scarred biker took a step backward. The swagger, the menace, the violence, all of it evaporated like steam. "You," Garrett croaked. "Yes," Denise cut him off. "And I could have ended this 5 minutes ago. I gave you chances. Multiple chances. You chose this." Phones were up now, recording everything. The waitress stood behind the counter, her call to 911 already connected. A trucker whispered, "She's a ranger." "Jesus Christ, she's a ranger." Denise's voice shifted. It wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that made grown men flinch. Command presence. The kind of voice that had led soldiers through firefights. "On your knees. Hands behind your heads. Now." It wasn't a request. It was an order. One by one, the iron skulls dropped to their knees. Hands laced behind their heads. Even Garrett, still gasping, lowered himself down, eyes fixed on the floor. "Use your belts," Denise instructed. "Secure your own wrists. Tight." They obeyed, fumbling with leather straps, cinching their own hands behind their backs. The most feared gang in 3 counties, subdued without a single serious injury. Denise crouched down to Garrett's level. Her eyes, dark, steady, unforgiving, locked onto his. "You thought I was weak because of my skin," she said softly. "Because I was quiet. Because you've spent your whole life thinking places like this belong to you." Garrett couldn't meet her gaze. "But they don't. Not anymore. And here's what you're going to learn tonight." She leaned closer. "You never really know who you're looking at. You never know what someone has survived, what they've endured, what they're capable of." Her words rippled across the diner. An older woman at the counter wiped tears from her eyes. The teenage busboy stared in awe. "You assumed. You hated. You attacked. And now you'll pay the price." Red and blue lights splashed through the diner windows. Sirens wailed to a stop outside. 2 police officers pushed through the door, hands hovering near their holsters. "We got a call about a disturbance." The taller officer stopped mid-sentence, taking in the scene. 10 bikers kneeling on the floor, hands bound with their own belts. Denise standing calmly in the center. Broken glass scattered across the tiles. The waitress pointed with a shaking hand. "Those men attacked her. She stopped all of them." Denise stepped forward, holding out her military ID. "Captain Denise Crawford, U.S. Army Rangers, retired. These men attempted assault with a deadly weapon." She gestured to the knife on the counter. "Multiple witnesses. I acted in self-defense." The officer examined her ID, then looked at his partner. Recognition flickered in both their eyes. "Understood, Captain," the taller officer said, his voice formal now, respectful. "We'll take it from here." They began cuffing the bikers properly, reading them their rights. Garrett shot one last look at Denise, shame, fear, and something that might have been understanding all mixed together. You really served?" he mumbled. Denise nodded once. "I fought for this country. For people like you to have freedom. Even when you don't deserve it." The words hit harder than any punch. As the officers led the iron skulls out in handcuffs, the diner slowly came back to life. Whispers became murmurs. Murmurs became applause. Someone started clapping, slow at first, then others joined. The trucker. The busboy. The family in the corner booth. Denise turned away from the attention. She walked back to her booth where Valerie sat, still trembling. "You okay, Val?" Valerie nodded, tears streaming down her face. I've never seen anything like that. You didn't even look scared." Denise slid back into her seat, picked up her water glass, somehow still intact, and took a sip. "Combat teaches you to stay calm. And standing up to hate? That's just survival." The waitress appeared, her face flushed. "Ma'am." "Captain." Your meal is on the house tonight. And I'm so sorry we didn't. Denise held up a hand gently. You called the police. That's enough. Thank you. But as the woman walked away, Denise stood again. She turned to face the diner. The truckers, the families, the workers, everyone who had watched in silence. Can I say something? She asked. The room went quiet. Denise took a breath. What happened here tonight, it happens every day. Maybe not with fists. Maybe not with threats. But people get treated like they're less. Like they don't belong. Like they should just accept it and stay quiet. Her voice was gentle, but it carried power. The next time you see it happen, to anyone, anywhere, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that it costs nothing to stand up. To speak up. To say this isn't right. She paused, looking around the room. But staying silent? That can cost everything. The diner was so quiet you could hear the hum of the refrigerator. Thank you, someone whispered. Denise pulled out a $20 bill and laid it on the table for the tip. Then she helped Valerie to her feet. Come on, she said softly. Let's go home. They walked through the diner, past the watching eyes and the phones still recording, out into the cool night air. The parking lot was quiet except for the distant wail of police sirens fading into the night. Denise and Valerie stood under a flickering street lamp beside Denise's old Ford pickup. The same truck everyone in town had seen coughing smoke at red lights. The same truck that made people assume she barely scraped by. Valerie leaned against the passenger door, arms wrapped around herself. Her hands were still shaking. Denise, she said quietly, how did you stay so calm in there? When he grabbed you, when they all surrounded us, how? Denise looked up at the dark sky, stars barely visible through the light pollution. She was quiet for a long moment. Because I've already fought for my country, she finally said. I'm not about to bow to hatred in a diner. Valerie wiped her eyes. All this time, I thought you worked at the hospital, cleaning floors. Everyone thought. I know what everyone thought. Denise's voice was gentle. And I let them think it. Why? Denise opened the truck door, but didn't get in yet. Because I didn't come home from war to be thanked. I came home to be normal. To just live. She paused, her hand resting on the door frame. But normal doesn't mean invisible. And it doesn't mean silent. Before Valerie could respond, footsteps approached from behind. They turned to see an older black man, the trucker from the counter, walking toward them. His weathered face was streaked with tears. Ma'am, he said, voice thick with emotion. Captain. I need to say something. Denise nodded. I sat there. I watched them threaten you. And I did nothing. His voice cracked. I've been coming to Murphy's for 15 years. I've seen Garrett and his boys run people off before. And every single time, I told myself it wasn't my business. That I didn't want trouble. He looked down at his boots, ashamed. My daughter is your age. And tonight, watching you stand up like that, I realized if someone treated her that way, I'd want somebody to do something. To say something. Denise stepped toward him. You called the police? No, ma'am. I didn't even do that much. But you're here now, Denise said firmly. You're telling me this. That's a start. The man's shoulders shook. I'm so sorry. Don't apologize to me, Denise said. Apologize to the next person who needs help. And then help them. He nodded, wiping his face. Yes, ma'am. I will. I swear it. As he walked back toward the diner, the door opened again. This time it was the waitress, a young woman, maybe 25, with tired eyes and a name tag that read Angela. She hurried over, still wearing her apron. Captain Crawford, she called out. Denise turned. Just Denise is fine. Angela stopped a few feet away, wringing her hands. I wanted to thank you. And to tell you something. What is it? My little brother. Angela's voice trembled. He's 17. He came out as gay last year, and Garrett's gang, they've been making his life hell. Vandalized our house. Threatened him at school. The police said they couldn't do anything without proof. Her eyes blazed with sudden fire. But tonight there were 20 witnesses. Phones recording. They pulled weapons. They made threats. She smiled through tears. They're going away for this. Because of you. Denise shook her head slowly. Not because of me. Because they made a choice. They chose violence. They chose hate. And tonight, they face consequences. Angela stepped closer. Can I ask you something? How did you become so brave? Denise was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of hard-earned wisdom. I'm not brave, Angela. I'm just tired of being afraid. She looked back toward the diner, where people were still visible through the windows, talking, pointing, reliving what they'd witnessed. I spent 3 tours overseas fighting enemies who wanted to destroy everything we stand for. Freedom, equality, justice. And when I came home, I found those same enemies right here. Not in uniforms. Not carrying foreign flags. Just people who'd convinced themselves that hate was power. Denise's jaw tightened. I didn't survive war to come home and surrender to a bully in a leather vest. Angela nodded, wiping her eyes. My brother's going to want to meet you. Bring him by the VA Center on Maple Street, Denise said. I volunteer there Thursday nights. We run a support group for people dealing with trauma. All kinds of trauma. Angela's eyes widened. You do? Every week. Have been for 5 years. As Angela walked back inside, Valerie finally spoke. There's so much I don't know about you. Denise climbed into the truck. There's a lot most people don't know about most people. That's the point. Valerie got in the passenger side. The engine rumbled to life with its familiar cough. So what now? Valerie asked. Everyone's going to know who you are. What you did. This'll be all over town by morning. Denise pulled out of the parking lot, headlights cutting through the darkness. Good, she said simply. Good. Maybe it'll make the next Garrett think twice. Maybe it'll make the next Angela speak up sooner. Maybe it'll make the next trucker actually do something instead of just watching. She turned onto the main road, the diner's neon lights fading in the rearview mirror. And maybe, just maybe, it'll remind someone out there that they're stronger than they think. That their voice matters. That they don't have to accept being treated as less than human. Valerie smiled, really smiled, for the first time all night. You sound like a leader. I was a leader, Denise corrected. Led a platoon of 38 soldiers. Brought every single one of them home alive. That's incredible. That's the job. Denise's voice softened. But the real job? The one that matters most? It's what we do after the uniform comes off. How we treat our neighbors. How we stand up for strangers. How we choose courage over comfort. They drove in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Valerie asked the question she'd been holding back. Denise, when he grabbed you, when he pulled out that knife, were you scared at all? Denise was quiet. Honest. Terrified, she admitted. Every time. In Afghanistan, in Iraq, and tonight. But you didn't show it. Because fear is information, not instruction. It tells you the situation is serious. It doesn't tell you to give up. She glanced at Valerie. You were scared tonight too. But you stayed. You didn't abandon me even when Diesel cornered you. That's courage, Val. Real courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. Valerie's eyes filled with fresh tears, but this time they were different. Proud tears. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. Denise pulled up to Valerie's apartment building. Before her friend could get out, Denise reached over and squeezed her hand. Thank you, Denise said, for being the kind of friend worth fighting for. After Valerie went inside, Denise sat alone in the truck for a moment. She pulled out her phone. 63 missed calls. Texts flooding in. The video was already spreading. One text stood out. From Angela, the waitress. My brother saw the video. He's crying. He said for the first time in a year, he feels like maybe the world isn't all bad. Thank you for being his hero tonight. Denise read it twice. Then she typed back. Tell him he's his own hero. I just reminded him that heroes exist. We all have that strength inside us. We just have to choose to use it. She set the phone down and started driving home. Past darkened storefronts. Past the courthouse. Past the elementary school where children would hear this story tomorrow. When she pulled into her small driveway, her neighbor, Mr. Brennan, an elderly Korean War veteran, was sitting on his porch despite the late hour. Heard what happened, he called out. Whole town's talking about it. Denise got out of the truck. News travels fast. You did good, Captain. He saluted. Real good. Denise returned the salute. Just did what was right, sir. Most people don't. That's what makes it matter. Inside her small house, Denise finally let herself breathe. She hung up her jacket, kicked off her boots, and sat down at her kitchen table. On the wall hung a framed photograph, her platoon in Afghanistan, 38 faces smiling under a blazing sun. Beneath it, her bronze star mounted simply. She'd told Valerie the truth. She hadn't come home to be thanked. But she'd come home to make sure that the values she'd fought for overseas, dignity, equality, justice, weren't just words. They were actions, daily choices. Moments like tonight. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from the local news. We'd like to interview you about tonight's incident. Denise thought about it. Then she typed, interview the witnesses instead. Interview Angela. Interview her brother. Interview the people who've been silent too long. Their stories matter more than mine. She turned off her phone. Tomorrow there would be questions. Attention. Maybe even gratitude. But tonight, Denise Crawford, Captain, U.S. Army Rangers, retired, just wanted to sit in her quiet kitchen and know that somewhere in town, a 17-year-old kid was sleeping a little easier. That Angela felt a little safer. That Valerie felt a little braver. That maybe, just maybe, the next time someone saw hatred in action, they wouldn't just watch. They'd stand up. Because that's what it meant to fight for something bigger than yourself. Not just on battlefields overseas, but in diners, in schools, in neighborhoods, in every moment where you could choose silence or courage. Denise chose courage. And tonight, she'd reminded a whole town that they could too. So what did you learn from Denise's story? Maybe it's that strength doesn't always look like what we expect. Maybe it's that the quietest people sometimes carry the heaviest burdens. Or maybe it's simply this. Standing up costs nothing, but staying silent can cost everything. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever witnessed injustice and wished you'd done something? Or maybe you did stand up and you have a story to share. We want to hear it. Remember Denise's words. You never really know who you're looking at. You never know what someone has survived. Treat everyone with respect. Stand up for what's right. And never, ever assume that silence means weakness. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, stay strong, stay kind, and always stand tall.